Hi, and welcome back to John Dawson Disc Golf. If you're new here, I'm John Dawson. I'm 54 and I play almost every day. And I'm still just trying to understand why this game has become such a big part of my life. One of the strange things about disc golf is that you can show up to a course alone and somehow leave feeling like you just joined a small community. That does not usually happen in other sports. If you go play basketball at a park or work out at a gym, people tend to stay in their own lanes. Even traditional golf, which is a beautiful game, often feels more transactional. You show up, you play around, shake hands, and head home. Disc golf has a completely different feel. It quietly turns a public park into something that feels like shared territory. And the people who gather there start to feel a little like a tribe. It happens in subtle ways. You might arrive not knowing a single person on the course, but within a few hours, someone has helped you spot a disc in the woods, or offered advice on a tricky line, or even handed you a disc from their bag and said something like, "Hey, try this one, it might work better for that shot." Think about how unusual that is. In most sports, your competitors guard every advantage they have. In disc golf, someone might literally give you equipment that helps you play better. I remember one time, this one player gave me his disc in the water retrieval device thingy, just to help me out next time my disc landed in deep water. This kind of generosity is one of the first signs that you have stepped into something that feels more like a culture than a simple game. Most people enter this culture gradually. At first, you play a round or two with a friend and think it's just a fun way to spend some time outside. Then someone loans you a couple discs. You laugh at how often you hit trees. You notice how satisfying the sound of chains is when a putt drops in. Then you play again the following weekend, and somewhere along the way, you download UDisc and start tracking your rounds. Not long after that, you're learning the language of the sport. Suddenly, you're describing discs as beefy or flippy, and you find yourself explaining the difference between a hyzer and an anhyzer like it's just normal conversation. At some point, the hobby quietly grows roots. You buy a few more discs, maybe you install a practice basket in your backyard. You start watching tournament coverage online and learning the names of professional players. A couple months later, you catch yourself planning a road trip and you're thinking about how many courses you can play along the way. Somewhere between the first casual round and the moment you start organizing travel around courses, you realize you did not just start playing disc golf, you joined the tribe. Now, part of what makes the culture feel tribal is how relaxed it is. There are no starter shacks, no dress codes, and no silent judgment about what you are wearing. You can show up in hiking boots, running shoes, flip-flops, barefoot shoes, or something that looks like it survived a camping trip. Nobody's evaluating whether you belong there. The only thing that matters is that you're outside throwing plastic through the trees and enjoying the experience. It's a refreshing contrast to environments where status and appearance quietly determine who fits in and who doesn't. The people who play tend to share a certain personality as well. Disc golf attracts people who love the outdoors and enjoy walking through the woods and open fields. It draws creative personalities, people who love solving unusual problems, and people who appreciate a little bit of weirdness. On any given course, you will see an interesting mix of characters. There's usually the ultra competitive player analyzing every angle like a chess move. There's the relaxed player who's just mostly there for the walk and the conversation. There's the person carrying a backpack full of discs that looks like they're preparing for an expedition. Occasionally, you even meet someone playing barefoot because they claim it helps them feel connected to the earth. Somehow, all of these personalities coexist peacefully on the same fairways. There's also an unspoken code that almost every player seems to understand. Respect the course, respect other players. Help people find their discs, pack out your trash, and for the love of trees, do not throw while somebody's on the fairway. If you follow those simple principles, you're welcome. Nobody needs to explain them formally because the culture reinforces it naturally. Another powerful bond inside the tribe is the shared struggle. Disc golf is hard, and every player knows it. Everyone hits trees. Everyone misses putts. Everyone has that moment where the disc leaves your hand and immediately smashes into the first available branch as if the forest personally rejected your decision making. And when that happens, the other players do not mock you. They nod with quiet understanding because they have experienced the exact same humiliation at least 100 times. There's something strangely bonding about collective suffering in the woods. When everyone on the card has battled the same obstacles and endured the same bad kicks, it's a kind of camaraderie that develops. The victories become communal as well. When someone throws a beautiful shot that glides perfectly through a narrow gap and parks the basket, everybody celebrates. It doesn't matter that you are technically competing against each other. A great shot is something everybody appreciates. Disc golf also has a surprisingly supportive atmosphere when it comes to improvement. Experienced players frequently offer tips to beginners, and beginners are usually eager to learn. Someone might recommend a different disc, suggesting a better line, or explain how a shot works. It's not done with arrogance. It feels more like older members of the tribe helping newer members understand the language of the game. That language is another thing that makes the culture feel unique. Disc golfers have developed their own vocabulary over the years, and if an outsider overheard a conversation between players, they might think they accidentally walked into a meeting of eccentric engineers. You will hear people discussing glide, turn, fade, hyzer flips, flex shots, and something called a roller that apparently involves intentionally throwing the disc into the ground. To the uninitiated, it sounds like nonsense. But to the members of the tribe, it's a perfectly normal discussion about strategy and physics. The accessibility of the sport plays a big role in the culture as well. Disc golf has very few barriers to entry. You don't need expensive equipment, and you don't need a membership or a reservation to participate. Most courses exist in public parks, quietly waiting for anyone who wants to play. And because of that openness, the community naturally includes people from many different backgrounds. Students, professionals, artists, parents, travelers, and retirees all share the same fairways. The game does not ask where you came from. It simply invites you to throw. Spending time outdoors together amplifies that sense of connection. You're walking through trees, you're hearing birds, you're feeling the wind and moving at a pace that allows conversation to develop naturally. Between throws, people talk about life and work and family and travel and whatever comes to mind. The rhythm of throwing and walking creates space for stories and laughter. It's amazing how quickly strangers can become friends when they spend just a couple of hours wandering through the woods chasing flying discs. And over time, you start to realize that disc golf is not just a pastime. It's a culture that quietly welcomes anyone willing to participate. The courses become gathering places where people share small victories, laugh at ridiculous mistakes, and celebrate the beauty of a perfectly thrown disc. It is informal, it's generous, and strangely comforting. And that's why disc golf feels like a tribe. It's not built on exclusivity or status. It is built on shared experience, shared struggle, and shared appreciation for the simple joy of watching a disc glide through the air exactly the way that you imagined. And once you experience that feeling, it is hard to walk away from it. Because the next time you show up at a course, even if you arrive alone, you know that somewhere out there on those fairways, there are people who understand exactly why you are there. Thanks for listening. I'm really glad that you came. And if these conversations are meaningful to you, consider subscribing. I'm exploring these questions in real time, and I would be super happy for you to join me on this journey. As always, thank you for being here on John Dawson Disc Golf.